And this morning's vote comes after Dr. Fauci, you'll remember, refused to answer lawmakers' questions during that hearing last week, where he invoked the fifth more than 100 times. Republicans are arguing that he had no right to do that because President Biden had already pardoned him.
So you heard from Senator Paul. He's indicated he will bypass a full Senate vote, which he could have. He had the option, but instead they'll send that referral straight to the Justice Department.
So let's go to Chad Pergram, who is following all of this from Capitol Hill. Hi, Chad.
Hey, guys. Well, what's remarkable about this is that anytime you have contempt of Congress, it usually bubbles up from the committee level and then it goes to the floor. And you have to have the entire body, be it the House or Senate, approve contempt of Congress and then make the referral to the Department of Justice. That is not what Rand Paul is doing here. This vote was a party line vote in the committee. 8-7, all Republicans for contempt, all Democrats against. And Rand Paul is going to do this unilaterally and just send this down to the DOJ for possible prosecution. The reason is because if you put it on the floor in the Senate, you need 60 votes to break a filibuster. If you get 60 votes, you only need a simple majority to then have DOJ, take this up. And then it's up to DOJ whether or not they want to move or not. And that's where some people think that, this might be going to the dead letter office here because there's no way that the DOJ can prosecute because they're not doing this by the book. Here's what Rand Paul, the committee chairman, said early in the markup.
This committee and the American people have a right to know why Dr. Fauci's agency funded dangerous research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and what role he played in approving and overseeing it.
Now, to my point, Gary Peters from Michigan, he's the top Democrat on this committee. He argued, he said, if they send this down there, we're going to start, to establish new precedents. How will other committees, maybe run by Democrats, how will they handle other witnesses who come in and, invoke the Fifth Amendment? And says, maybe this is going to be a problem with that potential prosecution because, again, you're not doing this by the letter of the law. Listen.
What it will do is create a damaging precedent that future witnesses will use to resist legitimate congressional oversight and weaken this committee's ability to compel testimony.
Now, it's always up to the DOJ whether or not they want to prosecute. I should note that you had the Democratic House of Representatives in 2008 referring the White House counsel under the presidency of George W. Bush, Harriet Miers, who was the White House counsel to the DOJ, for prosecution. And guess what? The Bush White House did not prosecute her. Now, again, you can imagine the Trump administration's position here with Anthony Fauci. And so would they, in fact, try to prosecute Anthony Fauci? I thought it was interesting a few years ago. You had Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon. Both were supposed to appear before the committee investigating the Capitol riot on January 6th. Neither of them appeared. The House of Representatives, then controlled by the Democrats, held them in contempt, made a referral to the DOJ, and they prosecuted. If you go way back when, you had, this is also in 2008, you had Roger Clemens, who was the baseball star, who came to a hearing. And, both you had the Republican, the top Republican on the committee, the top Democrat on the committee, thought that he actually, perjured himself with his testimony about steroids. And so there was a bipartisan referral in that case to the Justice Department, which they probably took a lot more seriously because it was bipartisan. And they, in fact, prosecuted Roger Clemens, although he was, found to be not guilty. Now, the thing that's interesting, and this is something that Josh Hawley, the Republican senator from Missouri, talked about, there's this 1896 case called Brown versus Walker. Theodore Brown, he was a railroad official, and he refused to testify in a railway fixing case. And the Supreme Court basically said that you have to speak. And what the opinion read was that you have to say what you have to say.